Hi guys, and welcome to another video on Fluent Assertions, and in this one we'll be going over exceptions. Now we've made an immediate start and we've got a basic class with two functions. One that will throw an exception, and that one's called should throw exception, and one that is called should not throw exception, which does nothing. Now Fluent Assertions allow multiple ways to handle exceptions, but they both rely on the use of actions. The first one we'll look at is where we declare the action first, which is nice if you prefer to use the arrange, act and assert methodology. To do this, we'll create our assert, which just means subject under test, and we'll set an action, a variable for our action. So here's our assert, and it's just going to be a new testable class. And then we're going to have our action, which will be equal to anonymous function to should throw exception. We can then assert this by saying act.should throw, and then we can specify the exception. And if we run this, then it will pass. Now we also, if you prefer, you don't need to create the action up front, and what you can do is execute it in a single line by, if we remove these two, we can say assert.invoking, which just says I'm going to invoke this action, and then we can pass the action into here. We can say x into x, dot should throw exception, and then we can say dot should dot throw exception. Now these are the exact same thing, it's just written in a slightly different way, but the test still passes. Now whichever one of these you choose, the assertions that follow are exactly the same, and we're going to be focusing in this video is the with message one, because that is the function that is most commonly used. To do this, we can just chain the with message after the throw exception, and it accepts a string to match against. So you can do it here, you can say dot with message, and you can see here that we've got the exception with the message of thrown, and if we run this, then it will pass. Now notice the useful little thing that Write is doing from here. It's saying it's a wildcard pattern. So what it can actually do, this function, is it can accept functionality with the question mark and the asterisk operator. Now the question mark will allow you to say that whatever I put here matches at least one character in that position. So in this situation, we could replace this T with a question mark, and what it will say is when we run it, it'll say, okay, this here can be anything, essentially. If we run this test, it will pass, which is fantastic. The wildcard operator, on the other hand, will match as many positions in that as it can, so 0 or more characters. So if we wanted to, we could remove all of this, replace it with a wildcard, an asterisk, run this again, and we will still get success because it still matches this N. If this was a P, for instance, or a PP, then this would fail because it doesn't match, it doesn't find anything. Now, if you need to do something more specific with this extension, so we're not just asserting the whole message, Fluent Assertions allows you to do this with the where extension. And this allows you to pass in a lambda expression, so we can say t into t dot message, and then we can add additional functions into this like contains. So we can say message dot contains and then thr and run that, and that will also work. And this is very useful because you don't always want to assert the full exception message, you just want to know that certain aspects are there. And this is all really, really useful, and we're going to finish off this video by doing the negative connotation. And of course, if you can do should throw exception, if you can throw something, you can also not throw it. So we can also say here, rather than throw, we can say not throw. And then we can remove this. And if we run this, this will then also pass. Now, the really nice thing about the Fluent Assertions here is not throw will also pass in, or also have a typed argument. So I could say here that it should not throw a not implemented exception. And now if I was to throw a not implemented exception here, throw new, I think, there we go, then this test will fail, because at the minute I'm throwing the not implemented exception. It's saying, hey, you should not be throwing this. I'm expecting this not to happen. It's really useful in the situation where you essentially just say, whatever happens, I do not want this specific exception. This specific exception should not happen. So, for example, if I put in a ridiculous if statement here and said, if 1 is equal to 2, then we should throw this exception, which should obviously never ever happen. Otherwise, we will throw a new null exception. And what does you pass in? Oh, you're an object, okay. So we pass in that, and then we run this test. This test will now pass, and it will pass because it didn't throw the not implemented exception. It threw this one. Really, really useful stuff, and I hope it's going to be useful to you guys. That's going to be the end of this video, though. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you liked it. Drop a comment if you've got anything to say or something I've missed or something else you want to say. There's lots more about this kind of thing, about this extension, these extensions with exceptions that are really useful if you want to test inner exceptions and things like that. If you want to see more on that, drop a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Cheerio.